Hi everyone. Today we will talk about embedded operating system. These are our group members. So, what is embedded OS? During the early stage of mobile computing in 1970, the mobile computer is very limited in resource, namely battery life and processing power. Because of that, the embedded system is invented to operate and handle specific tasks one at a time. Embedded OS is the operating system that is used in embedded system. Embedded OS is engineered and optimized to use computer resource efficiently. Windows, Linux, Palm Incorporation, and Wind River. These are examples of companies that develop embedded OS. Embedded OS has been used in telephone, cell phone, and PDA. As technology becomes more advanced and processing power increases exponentially every year, according to Moore's law, you may think that embedded OS is not relevant to be used anymore. You are wrong. Embedded OS is widely used today in robotic, medical, automotive, and IoT. Embedded OS is still being used in low-powered and specific functionality device.
In this part, I'm going to talk about the difference between embedded OS with regular desktop OS. To speak in terms of architecture, embedded is designed to perform for a particular or specific task efficiently, while regular desktop OS can be programmed to perform or solve multiple tasks as per requirement. Mostly, modern embedded OS contain a microcontroller which consists of a CPU to process data as well as a fixed amount of RAM and ROM, and mostly embedded system will only run the firmware added to the device by the manufacturer. However, some devices can have their firmware updated by the user. Example of an embedded OS is a pacemaker, which is a small device that placed in your chest to help monitor and control your heartbeat. If the sensor detects an abnormal heart rhythm, the device will send an electrical pulse to their heart to regulate the heartbeat. Firmware is a type of software used specifically for this purpose, and embedded systems are built to have a very close control over the hardware using firmware. Embedded OS are specialized, highly efficient, smaller, reliable, easy to design, cheaper price to produce, less memory space required, and usually have a low power consumption. Compared to embedded, regular desktop OS can be programmed to perform or solve multiple tasks as per requirement. Users or devices can interact with them in a variety of ways to fulfill all the required needs. The capability to run many different pieces of software allows a regular desktop OS to be versatile with the type of tasks it can perform. Software can be easily added, updated, and removed, which alters the functionality of a system. Usually, a regular desktop OS has inputs and outputs that can be connected to it. For instance, the USB ports on your laptop allows other devices to change the capabilities and features available to the system. However, they are often not fully optimized to perform specific tasks. Regular desktop OS are less efficient, larger, hard to design, higher price to produce, more memory space required, and have a high power consumption.
I will be explaining about two actual embedded OS, which is Linux Embedded and also Windows CE. Linux is actually an operating system kernel originally written by Linus Torvalds. Linux Embedded is a compact version of Linux that offers features and services that meet embedded system requirements. It is much smaller in size, requires less processing power, and also has minimal features. In most cases, Linux product development can just use Linux host itself, but it can also use virtual machine like VirtualBox or VMware Player with Ubuntu or other Linux distribution. Where does Linux Embedded OS usually implemented? It can be found in phone, smart tablets, camera, network equipment, navigation equipment, and also medical instruments. So let's move to the next embedded OS, which is Windows CE. Windows CE is a solution to a problem of Intel x86, which requires too much power to run a desktop version of Windows in pocket-sized device. So, Windows CE is an upgradable 32-bit embedded operating system which first developed in 1995. It is designed to be scalable and modular, has a good real-time performance, powerful communication capabilities, and also support for multiple CPUs. In Windows CE, it emphasizes low power usage, has compatibility with flash memory storage, and also has a relatively low memory requirements. Windows CE can be found in industrial controllers, ATMs, cameras, internet appliances, cable set-top boxes, and also communication hubs. Is Windows CE is still supported? In the recent year, Windows actually has ended developing more updates for Windows CE. Unfortunately, its last release, which is version 8.0, was in 2013, and it will only be supported until 2023. This means any company that use Windows CE will stop getting security updates and patches, but all the devices still can be used. So the solution for this issue is to migrate off this operating system and opt for other operating system.
Let's continue by comparing embedded Linux and Windows CE. Embedded Linux is open source software that allows everyone to have access to the source code of the kernel. On the other hand, Windows CE is a non-open source software. Windows CE only allows members of the selected group to have access to its source code. Next, embedded Linux has no good graphical user interface since it is commonly used by the technical user. This leads to the difficulty for the non-technical user to work with Linux as they need to learn various Linux commands to work with it. In contrast, Windows CE can easily be used by the technical user as well as the non-technical user, as it is rich in the graphical user interface. Embedded Linux is also more secure than Windows CE, as the hackers will find it difficult to break through embedded Linux. This is simply because embedded Linux has various advantages that make it less prone to viruses. For example, with account privilege, embedded Linux can protect its core processors from unauthorized access. It also enforces a layer of protection that prevents viruses from reaching the core processors. Unlike Linux, Windows are prone to viruses since most viruses are designed to infect Windows system. So, users need to actively use an antivirus program to keep their system secure. Thus, Windows CE is less secure compared to embedded Linux. Embedded Linux ensures the privacy of users' data as it never collects much data from the user while using its distributions. On the contrary, Windows CE collects all the user's detail, which can lead to privacy concerns. Embedded Linux offers a variety pre-existing design which can be modified in the application according to the user's need. Unlike Linux, Windows CE approach to the customization is very different. In its approach, Windows CE only offers limited customization options as the company only wants to make the operating system work efficiently and it doesn't want to involve the user in the design of the operating system. Last but not least, it is very complex to set up an embedded Linux system due to the number of user inputs needed during the installation process, whereas Windows CE only requires fewer user inputs for the installation.
Thank you for watching. These are the references that we use.